The esophageal wall consists of 4 main layers, arranged from the inside out. They are the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis propria, and Adventitia. Let's begin our journey from the very inside, the layer that actually comes into direct contact with the food you swallow. This is the mucosa. Now, if we zoom in further, we see that the mucosa itself is made up of 3 distinct components. And most importantly, the lining surface, the epithelium. In the esophagus, this is a stratified squamous epithelium. Importantly, in a healthy esophagus, this epithelium is non-keratinized, meaning it stays soft and moist, perfect for a passageway that needs to stay flexible. Why stratified squamous? Because the esophagus handles a lot of friction. Solid food, rough textures, and the constant movement of swallowing all create wear and tear. This multi-layered, tough epithelium provides the perfect protective shield. Directly beneath the epithelium lies a layer of loose connective tissue called the lamina propria. Its job is to support the epithelium, providing it with nutrients and a structural foundation. Within this layer, we find several important structures. Loose collagen fibers, which provide a flexible structural framework. Blood vessels, delivering nutrients and oxygen to the avascular epithelium above. Lymphatic channels, which help drain interstitial fluid and play a role in immune surveillance. And finally, lymphocytes, immune cells that patrol the area, ready to respond to any invaders that might breach the epithelial barrier. Now, there's a special feature worth noting. In the lower end of the esophagus, just before it meets the stomach, the lamina propria contains specialized structures called cardiac glands. These glands are called cardiac because they closely resemble the glands found in the cardia of the stomach. Their primary function is to secrete mucus, which helps lubricate the lower esophagus and protect it from any gastric reflux that might splash up. Moving deeper, we reach the muscularis mucosae. This is the deepest layer of the mucosa, forming its outer boundary. It consists of a thin double layer of smooth muscle. One layer runs in one direction, and the other runs perpendicularly. This arrangement allows for fine, local movements of the mucosal surface. Interestingly, the muscularis mucosae is not uniform throughout the esophagus. It becomes more substantial and thicker in the lower part, near the gastroesophageal junction. This extra muscle likely provides additional support and control in this critical region where the esophagus meets the stomach. Now, let's move one layer deeper. Beneath the mucosa lies the submucosa. Think of the submucosa as the flexible cushion between the inner mucosa and the outer muscular layers. It provides a flexible matrix that serves as a shock absorber during peristalsis, allowing the mucosa to glide smoothly over the contracting muscles beneath. But the submucosa is more than just padding. It is also the regional routing center for the esophagus. This is where the major blood vessels and lymphatic channels travel before branching into the mucosa above and the muscle below. Embedded within this connective tissue, we find relatively large caliber arterioles and venules, which supply and drain the surrounding layers. Lymphatic vessels are also present, helping to manage fluid balance and immune traffic. In addition, the submucosa contains a variable amount of scattered inflammatory cells, lymphocytes, and other immune cells that provide local surveillance against any pathogens that might penetrate the epithelial barrier. Now, one of the most unique and important structures in the esophageal submucosa is the submucosal mucus glands. These are specialized mucus-secreting glands whose function is simple but vital: secretion and lubrication. The mucus they produce coats the esophageal lining, facilitating the smooth transport of food and protecting the mucosa from mechanical abrasion and acid irritation. Finally, the submucosa houses a critical neural structure, a plexus of nerves known as Meissner's plexus, or the submucosal plexus. This network is primarily parasympathetic and is part of the enteric nervous system, the gut brain. Its job is to regulate glandular secretions and blood flow within the wall, ensuring that the inner layers respond appropriately during digestion. Now we arrive at the powerhouse of the esophagus, the layer responsible for movement. Beneath the submucosa lies the muscularis propria. This layer is more complicated than the ones we've seen so far because it has a dual structure and a unique transition in muscle type along the length of the esophagus. The muscularis propria consists of two distinct layers of muscle: an inner circumferential layer, where muscle fibers run in a circular direction around the tube, an outer longitudinal layer, where muscle fibers run lengthwise along the esophagus. This arrangement allows for powerful, coordinated contractions. The inner circular layer squeezes the lumen, while the outer longitudinal layer shortens and widens the tube, working together to propel food downward. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The type of muscle in these layers changes as we move down the esophagus. In the proximal, upper third of the esophagus, striated muscle predominates. This is the same type of muscle found in your arms and legs, voluntary, fast contracting. This allows for the rapid, voluntary initiation of swallowing. In the middle third, we find a mixture of both striated and smooth muscle. This is a transition zone where one muscle type gradually gives way to the other. In the distal, lower third, smooth muscle predominates. This is involuntary muscle, controlled by the autonomic nervous system. It's responsible for the slow, sustained contractions of peristalsis that continue even after we've consciously finished swallowing. But the muscularis propria isn't just muscle. Nestled between the inner circular and outer longitudinal layers, we find another critical neural structure, the myenteric plexus, also known as Auerbach's plexus. This is the second major plexus of the enteric nervous system. Its primary job is to coordinate the activity of the two muscle layers, ensuring that the circular and longitudinal muscles contract in perfect synchrony to create the wave-like motion of peristalsis. Finally, we arrive at the outermost layer, the layer that wraps around the entire esophagus and anchors it to the surrounding structures. This is the Adventitia. Unlike many other organs in the abdomen, the esophagus does not have a serosa. Instead, it is covered by an external fibrous layer called the Adventitia. The primary function of the Adventitia is connection. It acts as a flexible anchor, connecting the esophagus to other external structures in the neck and chest, such as the trachea, the aorta, and the vertebral column. This keeps the esophagus in place while still allowing it to move and stretch during swallowing. Histologically, the Adventitia is a layer of loose connective tissue, but it's not empty space. It is richly supplied with blood vessels and lymphatics, the large caliber vessels that travel alongside the esophagus, supplying and draining the organ before they branch into the deeper layers. Think of the Adventitia as the outer wrapping that holds the esophagus in place while providing a highway for the major vessels and nerves that serve it.